Mr. Willette, my name is Robert Draskovich. My partner, Mike Horvath, and I represent your wife. You and I have never spoken, have we?
No, sir.
You've never spoken with my investigator, Ken Hardy, have you? Investigator?
No, sir.
No. So this is the first time that we're actually having an opportunity to communicate, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, sir, if you could just get a little closer to the microphone. Thank you.
You had testified today, fair to say, for the first time, that you had a relationship with your wife that went years back.
Yes, sir.
You'd been asked that by a lot of people, correct?
Yes, sir.
You'd been asked that before under oath, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you didn't tell the truth, did you? Sir, you were given copies of your prior statements in preparation for your testimony today, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were. You're a smart man, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
And you reviewed those copies of your statements and your testimony, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because you wanted to be prepared for today, correct?
Yes, sir.
I see.
Sir, if you could speak up for me a moment.
You had testified today that you learned of your father's death for the first time about 1 o'clock on August 7th, 2023, correct?
Yes, sir.
You'd said, I believe it was your grandfather.
Yes, sir.
Now, you were interviewed by police just shortly after that, correct?
No, sir.
You were interviewed at 2:35 p.m. August 7th by Detective Ozawa.
Yes, sir.
He came to ask about you, your wife, stuff that was going on in the house and at the other house, correct? The Paladera house.
Yes, sir.
He asked you how you got along with your father, and you told him we never really got along, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's a little bit different than what you testified to today, correct?
No, sir.
It's the same, or it's different?
It's the same. I worked with my father.
I'm sorry, and this low voice, you can speak up, please.
I worked with my father, so we bumped heads on a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that I didn't love my father.
Okay, but the question is, how do you guys get along? And your answer is, we never really got along, correct?
Only over work.
I'm sorry, sir, you have to speak up.
Only over work.
Only over work.
Yes, sir.
Well, it was just a few seconds after that you said that you knew he was going to move in there, correct? And you didn't want to talk to him when he was at the house.
No, sir.
On August 6th. You don't recall telling the detective that? I mean, you have this transcript that I'm going to start referring to. You referred to it and you reviewed it before and to prepare for today's testimony, correct?
Yes, sir. I was told shortly after his death that he was going to move in. Then I didn't know prior to that.
Counsel, I'm referring to page 4. I'm sorry, I'll start on page 3. I did see him here when he was unloading everything into the garage, but I just didn't speak to him. You're asked, okay, is that you guys just don't get along or just... And then you stated, we never really did. And the detective says, okay. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you say, so not to cause any complications here, because I know he was going to move in here, I just didn't want to talk to him.
That was after the death.
But you're talking about, you saw him the day before, he's moving stuff in, and you're not going to talk to him because you know he's going to move in, and you guys don't get along. You're talking to the detective about what was going on in your head the day before, correct?
No, sir. I was told that they were moving a desk and a bunk bed into the house for the girls.
So when you're telling the detective on August 6th, I didn't go and talk to him because I never really got along with him. And I didn't want to cause any complications here because I know he was going to move in here. I just didn't want to talk to him. You're now under oath saying that meant something else?
No, sir. I'm answering the question. I was told after my father's death that he was going to move into the house, but I had no idea prior to that.
That's because you read your grand jury testimony, correct?
No, sir.
A little bit further down, same page. You wasn't really there for me, correct? I mean, you had resentment for your father. Fair to say?
No, sir.
And then kind of realized who he was as a person. And when you were talking about moving out of Yoko's house, you said, I got out as soon as I could, correct?
Yes, sir.
Page 5, you're asked, and then I guess, so your mom tells us that he was going to move in here. What's that arrangement? And you said she was going to tell me to move out, or she was going to give me some time, but he needed to get out of Yoko's house, and she was going to let him stay here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you were going to move out, and you say, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you're telling the detective who you speak to for the first time that you knew that Dad was pushing you out and that you were moving out of the house, correct?
I was told that the day before.
Oh, so now, you said before, until after your death, now you're agreeing you knew at least the day before that your dad was pushing you out of the house, correct?
No, I'm talking about the interview. So when I had the interview with Ozawa, that's when I found out everything prior to the interview.
But you're talking about not talking to him the day before because you know you don't want problems and you know that he's moving in.
That's right.
Page 6. So we don't get along. So she was giving me the heads up so I can move out. Correct?
No, sir.
You're saying no? And I won't misread anything. I mean, these are your words.
Can you repeat it?
So we don't get along. This is like the third time you're saying this. So she was going to give me that heads up so I can move out.
Yes, sir.
And then the detective asks, and this is the second thing about your marriage. He asks you about your marriage, correct? And you say, yeah, we're married.
Yes, sir.
Correct? And you tell the police officer that we're certified, but it's not like we're really. Because she has a whole bunch of health problems, all that stuff. Remember that conversation you had with the detective?
Yes, sir.
So he asked you, so it's just like worked out for like insurance, you're saying? And you say, well, not like anything bad, but like for the girls, correct?
Yes, sir.
That wasn't true, was it? Which you were telling the detective after you're saying that you learned for the first time that your dad's been murdered. What you told him about your marriage wasn't true, was it?
I was also drinking that day, I don't remember.
You've read through this transcript. You agree with me that you appear to be pretty coherent, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you'd agree with me that this detective was kind of confused, and he's saying, well, wait a minute. She had kids with him, but you're his son, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it is clear Yoko didn't know, correct?
Yes, sir.
Page 7, detective asks again, trying to clarify this relationship and what's really going on. So he asks you, so I didn't know, but you're saying that you guys are married more out of convenience, not like you guys actually love each other. And you respond, yeah, we don't. It's not like that. It's out of convenience. Correct?
Yes, sir.
That was a lie, wasn't it?
No, sir.
So you're telling us that you were telling this detective the truth?
Yes, sir.
Then the detective asks you, but do you guys sleep in the same room? And you say no, correct?
Yes, sir.
You guys actually did sleep in the same room. You slept in the same bed, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
But when he asked if you two slept in the same room, you said no, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then he asks you, are you guys intimate at all? And you say no, correct?
Yes, sir.
That wasn't true, was it?
No, sir.
Fair to say that you were downplaying your feelings for your wife when this detective came to ask you about the murder of your father.
Yes, sir, because I didn't know what actually happened to my father.
Please say it again.
Yes, sir, because I didn't actually know what happened to my father.
Okay. But you're lying to the police officer about your relationship with your wife, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the detective, page 8. Okay, so then you knew he was moving in, and she told you that you were going to have to move out. And your response recently, yes. It was kind of a short notice, but yeah. And I mean, I know the person he is, so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll deal with it. That's what you said to the detective, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the detective follows up. Okay, and that's you were going to move out. Did he knew that you lived here, or didn't know that you lived here? And you respond, no, he knows I live here, correct?
My father?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
That I lived in Vegas?
No, that lived in that house. The detective asked him, does he know that you live here? And you say, yeah, he knows I live here, correct?
Yes, sir.
You did confirm that you knew that she was going over there to your dad's house with the girls, correct?
Yes, sir. That was the joint custody that they had.
Yeah. And the detective, confirming that you know that he's moving in and that you're going out, asks, why was he moving out of the other house? And you said, because they all they do is scream and yell. When I was over there, my grandma would go downstairs at 6 in the morning yelling at him for the car payment, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you also say, I think my grandma was kicking him out, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's true. And trust me, I'm not going to tell you anything you didn't say, okay? I'm not trying to trick you. You're asked, page 10 by Detective Ozawa, bottom of the page. Okay, so then, how long has, I guess, it been planned for them to move John in over here? Your response, I have no idea. Like, it was ran by me that, because we all know how he is. And it's like, okay, if he's moving in here, and if he's going to be homeless, I get it. I can move out and go somewhere, because I have a legitimate job, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this isn't some one-off. You repeatedly confirmed to Detective Ozawa that your dad was moving in and that you were moving out, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you had the legitimate job, correct?
We both had legitimate jobs.
You had a good job.
His job was better than mine.
He was a mover, part-time, correct?
He did everything.
Your grandmother was always angry at him because she owed him money. Fair?
Fair.
But you had a steady job at Hometronics, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you had the good, legitimate job that you were the one getting kicked out, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you go on to state that you're a technician for Hometronics, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that you do security systems, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you install entertainment systems.
Yes, sir.
You told the officer that you'd been doing that for about 2.5 years. Fair?
Yes, sir.
You were asked again by Detective Ozai, well, since you knew you were moving out, where are you going to move into? Where are you going to move to? And you tell him, and this is page 12, counsel. Yeah, like I have some friends down the street that I could roommate with. Correct?
Yes, sir.
That made you angry, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you've been in this house with your wife, your dad's moving in, and you have to leave. You're telling us that didn't make you angry?
No, sir.
Now, today you testified that you'd worked the day before, August 6th, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you were actually off the day before, correct? You didn't work on August 6th.
I was drinking a lot. I don't remember.
But you would first tell the police officer, yeah, I worked yesterday, but then...
Sir, I'm going to have you to speak up. The jury's having a really hard time.
Sorry about that.
Is that better? Okay.
If you could just please repeat your answer. Trust me, I'm not trying... If you could speak up, please, and just repeat that last answer.
I was drinking a lot and I don't remember.
But you actually made the same mistake and initially told him, I was working yesterday, but then you corrected yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you really weren't drinking that much. Because you at first said, well, I worked yesterday, and then you said, oh, actually, you know what? It was my day off. Correct? Sundays are your days off.
That was 10 years ago and I was drinking very heavily for my father's death. So I don't.
Okay. But sir, this conversation occurred August 7th, 2023. All right?
Sorry.
Or, I mean, you do... Fair to say, it hasn't been that long, has it?
Not 10 years.
In reference to the day before, August 6th, and you seeing them moving in, okay, because you actually didn't work the day before. You said, I heard the door open. I thought one of the girls opened the door, so I came down and looked out and saw him unloading stuff. And I was like, oh, all right, whatever. So I closed the door, just didn't hear it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at this point in time, you tell the detective that you actually don't have a room in the house, correct?
Yes, sir.
But that wasn't true. I mean, you were sleeping with your wife in the same bed, correct?
Yes, sir.
You said that your guy is a hot-tempered guy, correct?
That's who it is?
His father.
Okay, you said your guy.
Yeah. You said he's like a hot-tempered guy, correct?
Yes, sir.
You said he had no filter, that kind of a guy.
Yes, sir.
You were asked, okay, so when you left Yoko's house, and that was a couple of years before, correct?
Yes, sir.
How often do you talk to him? And your answer was not at all, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the detective says, oh, and you say nothing. I mean, you say nothing, correct? Meaning you guys don't talk.
After he found out that we were married, we didn't talk after that.
Detective asks you, he didn't call you or nothing, and you said no, correct?
Yes, sir.
No text, nothing like that, and you said no, correct?
Yes, sir. The
detective then asks you about you speaking with him a couple of months ago, and what did that entail? Like, what were you guys doing at that point? You correct him and say, I didn't say I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the detective says, I thought you said the last time you spoke with, like actually talked to him, was a couple of months ago. And you say, well, like it was probably years, correct?
Yes, sir.
You say, he doesn't call me on my birthday, not on Happy New Year's, like none of that. So not Thanksgiving, so we just didn't talk, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you're asked by the detective, counsel is on page 18, is there anything you can think of that you haven't told me that you think might be important for us to know? And you say, correct?
Yes, sir.
So they're there trying to figure out this dynamic, and you've lied to them about the relationship that you have with your wife, and you've lied to them about the living arrangement where you're getting kicked out by your father, correct? He's moving you out.
Yes, sir, because I didn't know what exactly had happened.
You did say that it was kind of a shit show at the other house, correct?
Yes, sir.
That wasn't the first time that you had discussed issues concerning this dynamic, correct? Concerning your wife, you, your father, the moving arrangements, correct?
No, yes.
You were interviewed another time, correct? By another officer. And you reviewed that in preparation, the transcript, in preparation for your testimony today.
Yes, sir.
That interview occurred September 12th, 2023, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this detective now, after speaking to you, and it's a little bit into the interview, tells you, well, you know, you weren't the main suspect. You know what I mean? This is, meaning the situation is a little different than hers. We're here to, you didn't do it, to clear you, correct? You recall that conversation?
When was this again?
I'm sorry?
When did this conversation happen again?
September 12th, 2023.
Yes, sir.
Remember that? I mean, you're there being interviewed concerning being a potential suspect. And you remember the date, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're being told now that we're working to clear you, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were relieved, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
The detective asks you, does that make sense? And you say it does, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the detective says, while the chances of you even being there are so slim that it's just there's that's not even on the radar, correct?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you had told law enforcement that you weren't close to Devyn. You didn't really have a real marriage. And things aren't that bad with your dad, and you're basically being told, hey, it's good. You're good, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you're left there sitting for a little while, and the room's being recorded, and you say, this is going to be a fucking Netflix series, correct?
I don't remember.
I told you that you said that. Would you have any reason to disagree with me?
I'm just letting you know I don't remember.
Okay.
Sir, if you could just keep it going.
Oh, sorry.
And before I forget, and I'm sorry for going back, but there was some discussion with Detective Ozawa about the problem the morning, August 7th, about your wife trying to register the girls. Your dad was supposed to have registered them, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's because they were moving into the house, and the girls were starting at that school, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that's, again, a confirmation that you knew. You knew that they were moving into the house. Correct?
Yes, sir.
You testified before a grand jury, a little different room, but you were put under oath and you were called as a witness on September 14th, just a couple days after that last interview, correct?
Yes, sir.
And under oath, you testified, like you did initially today, that you were unaware that your father was moving into the house, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that it was something that you had learned after your father's death, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that there were no discussions about you potentially moving out, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, that's exactly what you said, no, sir. There was never a discussion and you said no, sir, but there was. There were multiple discussions, correct?
So that I can remember, yes.
You were asked, were you estranged from your father? And you said, we didn't get along, correct?
Only while working, sir, yes.
I'm sorry?
Only while we worked together.
So you're still saying you guys got along just fine, but it was just work related?
Anytime I was with him, I had a good time.
I see. But you guys don't text, you don't call, correct?
Not after he found out I was married.
Today, now that she's on trial, you testified that you woke up at 2 o'clock on the morning of the 7th and she was in bed, correct?
Yes, sir.
But when you testified to the grand jury, you testified that you never woke up at all, correct? I'm referring to page 17, 18.
Yes, sir.
So your testimony is different again today on that point, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because obviously you waking up is kind of a big deal, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you were actually awake at 2 a.m. on the 7th, weren't you?
I woke up to her getting in bed, and I looked over at her and saw that she got in bed, and I rolled back over and went to sleep.
You had been calling her that night from the home phone, correct? Well, she's with your dad.
We don't have a home phone.
Testimonies that you don't have a home phone. All right. So it's your testimony that you didn't call over and over again?
I believe I sent a text and she didn't reply, and then that's when I put the girls to sleep and I went to sleep myself.
But that wasn't the only night that she was out with your dad. She was with your dad till like 1 a.m. the night before, correct?
loss of living incomes, yes.
So 2 nights in a row, she's with your dad and she's not home, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, through the course of your grand jury testimony, you are asked by a grand juror, because unlike this, I mean, grand jurors can ask you questions, correct? I mean, that was your understanding. They spoke to you.
Yes, sir.
You were asked how long you and Devyn had been married, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you answered 3 years.
Yes, sir.
And then there's some follow-up questions. Just like to ask you a couple more questions about that. Did you and Devyn...
Sorry to interrupt.
I'm sorry, page 35.
Thank you.
Did you and Devyn get married in the traditional sense? And you answered, yes, it was more of me helping out with the girls when she couldn't find a babysitter. So I figured, well, we both kind of sat and talked about it. When she has to go to work and can't find a babysitter, I could be there. She also had a whole bunch of medical problems, and it was very expensive to keep the girls at daycare, and she's sitting in the hospital, so I would normally be there to watch them. And then there's a question, okay, and I'm sorry to ask, was an intimate relationship that you were in with Devyn at some point? And your testimony under oath to this grand jury on this day was, yes, after the first year it started to get intimate, correct?
Yes, sir.
After the first year of marriage, it started to get intimate, correct?
Objection, it does not say that.
The context of the question, I've read it, it speaks for itself.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the jury can determine what the context is. You just need to read it verbatim. So that objection will be sustained.
And if I may just read then for the record, I mean, this is prior testimony.
This is from the grand jury.
Correct.
What page are you on?
Page 35, I'll start at line 15, page 35, by juror. How long have you and Devyn been married? Answer, 3 years. Question. If I could ask you just a couple more questions about that, did you and Devyn get married in the traditional sense? Yes. Answer. But it was more of me helping out with the girls when she couldn't find a babysitter. So I figured, well, we both kind of sat and talked about it. When she has to go to work and can't find a babysitter, I could be there. She also had a whole bunch of medical problems, and it's very expensive to keep the girls at a daycare when she's sitting in the hospital, so I would normally be there to watch them. Question, okay, and I'm sorry to ask, was an intimate relationship that you were in with Devyn at some point? Yes. After the first year, it started to get intimate. Next question, did it remain intimate up until the time of your father's death? Yes. You're getting closer to the truth of the nature of your relationship the farther it is that you get away from perhaps being charged with his murder. Fair to say?
Can you repeat the question?
You're getting more and more truthful concerning the nature of your relationship with Devyn the further it gets away from your having been charged or being charged. Fair to say?
Yes, sir.
You testified today that you didn't remember the date that you married her, correct? Your testimony that you don't remember marrying her on December 21st, 2021?
No, sir.
Are these in stipulated? Thank you. There'll be exhibit numbers, but I'm going to show you some pictures, okay? And these were taken from your phone,
Where you from?
from his phone.
Are those stipulated to?
Yeah, we have no objection. We just want a copy because
Absolutely.
we've just seen them. But
Okay.
I think
You
we
have
do
no
for,
objecting to this stack?
correct. I think,
Okay, well, let's just make a record.
Yeah.
Where are the
Yeah, they put them on.
numbers?
This is L3. It's been marked by your clerk. He was ahead of me, so thank you.
Right, but I think she is gonna be what it is, so we can put it on the record.
Okay. L3.
It's L3?
Yeah. Is that L3?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so L3, well, Mr. Dressel, what's it, if the whole packet's being stipulated to, let's just admit the packet now, and then
Okay.
you can show any ones you want.
Okay.
Okay, so L3 to what?
Hang on just a second. A3 to S3.
Okay, A3 to S3 is a mental stipulation, we have to eventually publish them all.
And in the interest of time, and since these will go back, I'm not going to go through each and every one of them.
I don't think so.
If we could please-
In the front.
Right here?
Yeah.
Remember that date?
I remember the day.
Okay. But you do remember marrying her, correct?
Yes, sir.
Remember this?
Yes, sir.
Now, what exhibit was that?
This is exhibit K3. And we're going to be showing you L3. Remember this?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, fair to say you and she had a traditional marriage, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
I mean, obviously it was a fairly passionate relationship, wasn't it?
It got weird, yeah.
I mean, for good and bad, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, she had sent you a text just days before this case began about get out of the house. Do you recall that? Get your stuff. Don't think of coming back. I want a divorce.
I don't remember anything like that.
And you're still married to her, correct?
Yes, sir.
After things went down in this case, you moved to California, correct?
Yes, sir.
Through the course of your marriage to her, you wore a wedding ring, didn't you?
In my time in Vegas, yeah.
And she wore a wedding ring too, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was a symbol of the commitment that you had to each other, correct? Rings are.
Yes, sir.
I'm showing you what's been admitted, Defense Exhibit B3. That was the ring that she wore, correct?
Yes, sir.
You worked at Hometronics and you had tools, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were good at installing home security systems, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had hundreds of pictures on your phone of various systems that you installed, correct?
Yes, sir. After I was done with the job, I had to upload it to the Hometronics website to prove that I got the job done.
And Your Honor, this is Defense Exhibit Looks like B1 through V2, we're moving through the admission. These are just images of security systems.
B1 through B2.
I'm sorry,
B1 through
B1 through
V2. I
V2.
believe.
Oh, no objection.
Okay, B1 through V2 will be a minute.
And in going through these security systems, you obviously were conscientious of the angles, correct?
So I was asked how we set the camera up, and I would ask the customer to pull it on their phone and let me know what angle they would like it to be.
So you're familiar with security cameras and what they picked up and what they didn't.
Yes, sir.
And there's going to be a stack of these, but I'll just show you just for, like, Defense Exhibit K2. And we've got one right here. You can see that, correct?
Yes, sir.
You know what type of camera that is, correct?
A ring camera?
All right. Showing you Defense Exhibit D2. You got the ladder up on this. This is an exterior camera. You installed that one, correct?
Yes, sir.
You know what kind of camera that is, correct?
That's also a ring camera.
I mean, you were good at what you did, correct?
Yes, sir.
And installing the home entertainment systems, I mean, you use a Sawzall. You cut through 2x4s, you cut through drywall, things like that, correct?
Not 2x4s, it was just drywall.
Okay. But you had tools, you had saws, you had electric powered saws, correct?
No, just a drywall saw. That was another
Okay.
for doing in-wall kits for TVs.
All right. And it's your testimony, Mr. Giordani asked you, it's your testimony that you didn't kill your father, is that correct?
I did not kill my father.
You left your home that night, didn't you?
Objection, what night?
The night of the 7th, well, early morning hours of August 7th, correct?
2023?
2023.
To go to work?
No. You left the house in the dark at 2 a.m., correct?
No, sir.
You'd been on your phone. You were looking at pictures of you and Devyn, correct?
I don't remember.
You left that home. You went to the Palo Verde residence, didn't you? The Palo Verde residence.
No, sir. If you're talking about the night that my father was murdered,
Yeah.
I was home with the girls. We watched a movie. I put them to sleep. I received a text her letting her know that I put them to sleep, and I went to sleep myself.
And that's your testimony under oath, correct?
Yes, sir.
Like the testimony under oath that you've given to the grand jury previously, correct?
Yes, sir.
You'll agree with me that you'll lie under oath if it fits you.
No, sir. I became a very big alcoholic out there.
Okay.
So it's a little fuzzy, but I will answer truthfully to what I do.
But you'd agree with me that you were an alcoholic before that day and you had a drinking problem, correct? Before August 7th, 2023.
Yes.
In fact, it became a really big point of contention between you and your wife, correct?
Yes.
The actions, correct? Things that you do, correct? She'd send you texts. I mean, she'd get angry about that, correct?
Yes, sir.
She'd tell you that you were turning into your father. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
And you resented that part of your father, didn't you? Because he did the same thing, correct?
No, sir.
And you'd agree with me that when you drink, you do things that you wish you didn't, correct?
Other than maybe throw up, no, sir.
It affected your judgment, didn't it?
No, sir.
Affects your memory, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions, but thank you.
Can you read the rest of it?
Yes. Bear with me, Deviere, I just got a few more questions. Okay?
Yes, sir.
I want to clarify a couple of things. So, Mr. Draskowitz started his questioning by asking you if you'd ever talked to him or his investigator or anything like that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Since after that jail call we heard, you moved to California, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've maintained a job out there, correct?
Yes, sir.
living a normal, or I guess relatively normal life.
Yes, sir.
You traveled here after we contacted you and said this trial's coming up and we need you to testify as a witness, correct?
Yes, sir.
You came here willingly.
Yes, sir.
You didn't make me go arrest you to bring you here, correct?
No, sir.
We flew you out and you came and you brought your girlfriend for support, correct?
Yes, sir.
And your girlfriend's the young lady sitting in the back of the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Is it easy for you to talk about your personal sexual life in front of all these strangers and that big old camera right there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tell me tell the jury. Was this a dynamic, untraditional relationship?
At first, it was just to help with my sisters, and things got a little weird, so in the beginning, no, and then at the end, yes.
Okay, and I'm not just talking about the marriage. I'm talking about since you were a 19-year-old kid having sex with your father's ex, or I guess live-in girlfriend at the time. You would agree that's not traditional.
Absolutely not. Yes.
You would agree that's not traditional.
Yes, sir.
You would agree that, it's not the best look to do what you did.
Yes, sir.
Are you embarrassed of that?
Yes, sir.
But it happened, and you're acknowledging that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that sexual relationship went on for an extended period of time.
Yes, sir.
Without going through all these exhibits, you would acknowledge and you understand that the detectives took your phone and took a whole bunch of other phones, correct?
Yes, sir.
And before you even took the stand in front of these people today, you know that we, all these lawyers, have access to your most personal, intimate conversations.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you doing your best to recall 2 years ago, back to 8 years ago, in front of this jury?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you say, sitting on the stand today, you say, I believe I worked on August 6th. Is that what you believe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Mr. Draskevich made a big point of this, and I want to address it real quickly. Page 13 of the voluntary statement, counsel. This is about working the day before. Actually, it's bottom of page 12. The detective asks you, okay, is that what time you got off? And I'm going to be exactly precise with the words from this transcript, okay?
Yes, sir.
You respond, sometimes a little earlier. The detective asks, is that what time you got off yesterday? You respond, I got off yesterday at about, wait now, today's Monday. Yesterday was Sunday, right? And the detective responds, yeah. Then you respond, yeah, I didn't work yesterday. Does that sound accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I can show you this at any point if you need to see it. My point is, and my question is, on August 7th, you learned your father died from your grandfather, correct?
Yes, sir.
You have, you were at work and then you go home and you start drinking, correct?
Yes, sir.
You learn a little bit later that it's not like a natural death and there are police involved, correct?
Yes,
There are
sir.
police showing up to your house, they're searching it, they're talking to Nikki, Devyn, they're talking to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You acknowledged with defense counsel earlier, you were not entirely truthful about the depth of your relationship with Nikki, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Explain to this jury, let them look at you and say, why is it that you were not entirely truthful about your relationship with Nikki on the day one?
I wasn't entirely truthful with our relationship because I didn't know that my father was murdered, and I didn't want anybody to find out that. I tried to feel some truths that I shouldn't be feeling.
Okay. So, do you even know at the time you're giving this interview that Nikki was a potential suspect?
I was unaware for the whole thing. I just didn't know
Okay. Did there come a point in time in the intervening or the days after August 7th where you start to suspect she had something to do with it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that easy for you to come to that understanding?
Absolutely not.
Okay. She was your wife. She is your wife.
Yes, sir.
You cared for 2 children together. You had a lot of sexual history with this person, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you want to see her go to jail or get arrested for this?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, and I should clarify. In the days where you're just suspecting and you're still kind of figuring out what's going on, did you want her to go to jail and lose her kids for this?
Once I found out after the news article, yes.
Okay, so once you find out what actually happened to your dad and you presume she did it, you want her to go to jail. Fair.
Yes, sir.
But before that, you're not in any of this interview blaming it on her, correct? We agree there.
Yes, sir.
You're not saying she must have done it. You're just giving history.
Yes, sir.
You minimize your relationship. We can agree.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With regard to the questioning Mr. Draskovich went through with the when you learned your dad was moving into the Porcupine Room address. I want to talk about this for a moment. Before I get into the transcript, as you sit here right now, when is it that you think you learned that your dad was moving into the residence?
It was talked about before. I drank a lot. According to the paper, I did know about it apparently, but
Okay.
I didn't think it was actually going to happen.
Okay. So, and bottom of page 8. I'm going to read verbatim. You are asked about line 300, counsel. Okay, so then you knew he was moving in and she told you that you were going to have to move out, period. You respond, recently, yes. It was kind of a short notice, but yeah, period. And, period, I mean, period, I know the person he is, so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll deal with it, period. They then ask, okay, and you were going to move out. Did he knew that you lived here or didn't know that you lived here? You responded, no, he knew I lived there. Detective says, and then, ... and you continue and you say, but since I didn't talk to him and she was going over there for the girls and him, I kind of stayed away. I guess they would talk about it and she ran it by me. I drink a lot, so she ran it by me apparently, and I was gonna move out for a short period of time until he got on his feet and I was gonna come back. Does that sound accurate? Do you dispute what is in the statement?
Yes, sir.
Does it sound accurate?
Yes, sir.
You're not disputing what's in the statement.
No, sir.
So even back then, you're telling them, like, I drink a lot. She apparently told me this.
Yes, sir.
As you sit here right now, do you 100% remember when you learned your dad was going to move in?
No, sir.
Okay. Had you known beforehand, before his death, would that have caused you to fight him, hurt him, kill him?
No, sir.
Would you have had any reason to kill him?
No, sir.
Did you want out of this relationship with Nikki at varying points of time?
Yes, sir.
And so had your dad moved in and you've been told you got to go stay at a buddy's house or move out or whatever, would that have been a big deal for you at the time?
Absolutely not.
All right. Thank you, Deviere. I pass the witness.
Continue with brief, Mr. Winchester.
Yes. whole issue about the sexual relationship that you had with Devyn, beginning when you were 19, you didn't speak to the prosecutor or anybody about that until yesterday, correct?
Yes, sir.
You watched this opening statement, didn't you? Our opening statement, where we laid out what was in the phones. Isn't that right?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, you watched the opening statement in this case, didn't you?
What was the opening statement in this case?
You don't know what an opening statement is, or the opening statement?
I don't record a lot.
I see. So she's on trial, you're in California, or you're getting here, and you didn't watch this?
I seen a YouTube video.
Then you talked to the prosecutor about these issues, correct? So you watched the YouTube video, you watched the opening statement, correct? And you adjusted, isn't that right?
What do you mean by adjusted?
You know, you received a couple of texts from your father. (10/24/2022). You have nothing to tell me? WTF. I thought you were my seed. If what I know, I can't fuck with you. And he sent you another one a moment after that. Devil shit, correct?
Listen,
I have no further questions.
Anybody understand?
What YouTube video did you see and when did you see it?
it was earlier in the year. I think it was about the custody case. It wasn't about this one.
Okay, so that line of questioning just now was a bit misleading, so let me clarify something.
I'd object. The question was clear. It's whether it's his answer, I think, is misleading. So
I object, Mr. Giordani's objection, Mr. Giordani's characterization is going to be sustained. Mr. Giordani, if you think something needs to be clarified for this jury, you can ask a clarifying question.
Okay, so the way, maybe I mischaracterized or misunderstood the question. I thought the question was, did you watch a YouTube video last night of the opening statement that happened in this trial?
No, sir. I'm sorry. The video that I had witnessed was over the custody case, I believe.
Yeah, like months ago, correct?
Yeah, earlier
Okay.
this year.
Did you watch any footage from this trial before hitting the stand?
No, sir.
Okay. So what you're testifying to is not based on something Mr. Draskovich said yesterday or the day before. Because you wouldn't know what he said, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when we met last night, I told you, I'm not going to tell you what anybody said in court. I want to hear the truth, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I said the most important thing is to tell the truth, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you doing that?
Yes, sir.
Pass witness.
Any follow-up, Mr. Justice?
you're capable of not quite telling the truth when it's to your benefit. Fair to say?
I just didn't understand the question. I'm sorry.
I see. You reviewed those transcripts prior to your testimony today, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you spoke with investigators from the district attorney's office in preparation for this trial, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
They went through what your testimony was going to be. They went through what your statements were going to be, correct?
Yes, sir.
They provided you transcripts of your prior statements, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it wasn't until last night that you talked about having this sexual relationship with your wife. About 19, correct?
Yes, sir.
And just last night's the first time you talked about it. Just so we're clear, correct?
Talk to him.
To the prosecutor about this relationship that you had with Deviere. Last night was the first time, correct?
Well, he is Deviere.
Yeah, but no, I'm sorry. It's been a long day. But
It's okay.
with Deviere, you spoke with Mr. Giordani last night for the first time, correct? About your relationship with Devyn Michaels. Going back to 19, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any follow-up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got to clarify. Just so everyone understands, You testified at a prior proceeding where I questioned you, the grand jury thing that we were talking about earlier.
Yes, sir.
And you talked about the relationship, and you said it was sexual after the first year, and it went up and until your dad's death.
Yes, sir.
That's back in September of 23.
Yes, sir.
Last night, you flew in out of state, you came with your girl, and you met with us with a witness present, a guy with a badge. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I don't know if it was meant to be suggested this way, but what I heard was they told you what to say or something like
Oh,
that?
I object to that. No, I didn't. That wasn't my question, so that was
Okay.
not, okay.
So we asked you questions, correct?
Yes.
And I told you I can't tell you anything that's happened in court. That would be unethical, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I told you to tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness.
And follow, Mr. Justice.
Just so we're clear, I'm not accusing him of any wrongdoing. I'm just saying yesterday was the first time that you had a discussion about having a relationship with your wife, a sexual relationship, from the time you were 19, correct?
No, sir. It sounds like I was already interviewed about it and I talked about it.
I read you your grand jury transcript. No, that was in the context of your marriage. You never testified before the grand jury about having a sexual relationship with your wife that began when you were 19, correct?
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions.
And follow, Mr.
No,
Justice.
thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury have any questions for this witness? Okay, seeing no response. Sir, you are excused. Thank you very much for your testimony here today.
No problem.